Put in the hydrogen first. The hydrogen acts as a filter medium. Any kind of water that's standing at the bottom will get filtered through this. It's a carbon ball. What happens is, basically this is what keeps your cage from smelling, and it provides aeration for the roots of the plant. And hey Elliot, can you grab me scissors real quick? Scissors. You also don't want to put your dirt right on the hydrogen balls. You want to separate it with a layer of polyfoam. And this polyfoam is 2 feet by 1 foot, which means it's not going to fit quite right in here. Hence the scissors. Thank you, Elliot. This is the least exciting part of building a vivarium. And one of the best things about vivariums is that you can use them to house just about any kind of creature that you're interested in. You can do dart frogs, mantellas, you can do day geckos, which are one of my favorites. You can do like I do, and you can house all kinds of different species that cohabitate together. Tree frogs, you can do different kinds of dwarf geckos. This is going to be your growing medium. I didn't grab any plants, but that's okay. Just dump it right on top. The key when you're building a vivarium is to create multiple zones within the cage. You want to have one area that is going to be dry and hot, one area that's wet and hot, one area that's dry and cold, one area that's dry and wet. This way, if you're keeping any unusual species, any of the more difficult species, any species that there's no data on the husbandry for, that's how you figure out the best way to take care of it. Like if you say you get a limbless skate, like that's what I have at home. I figured out how to take care of it by setting it up in a cage, making one side hot, and then keeping one corner wet, one corner dry. I left the other side cold, left one corner wet, one corner dry, and watched where they went. You can do that with anything. If you're not sure if your anaconda is being kept too wet or too dry, set it up with that kind of a range. If you don't know if your legless lizard is being kept too hot or too dry, I'm just looking at the cages in front of me, yes. Do the same thing, just on a different scale. In this size cage, this is an 18-18-18 cube. You could do dwarf geckos, you could do day geckos, the line day geckos, green day geckos, gold dust, all of those would do well in there. So you want to have that in mind as you start to build stuff in here. You want to create a place where they can go up to baths. So that's going to be what that is. And then from there you can just build something that one, looks cool, and two, again, still is meeting those needs. And providing a place to hide, all that kind of fun stuff. We're going to say that this is going to be a cage for day geckos. And places to bath. Creating multiple layers also gives them choices as far as where they're going to hide. So that way they don't have to choose between being hot and being safe or being cold and being safe. Have a water bottle. You guys doing all right? I'm going to be right back. I have to go with plants. I'm a really big fan of using pothos, which is what this plant is. Basically, pothos bush out and end up covering the entire cage. So you can even just plant a cage like this with just one pothos plant, and it would take over the entire cage. They also create multiple zones within the cage because they are so big and bushy, so that makes it useful. And I don't want to use use that one. I want to put this one. This here.
Over here, that's the price for one.
Depending on what kind of animal you put in there, depends on what kind of top substrate you use. I like using cypress and I like using orchid bark to cover the tops of my vivariums rather than moss. I don't keep a lot of frogs, but if you catch dart frogs, if you catch mantellas, I would recommend using pillow moss more so than this kind of stuff, just because that will hold more moisture closer to the bottom of the cage. Hey guys. So when you put some of that in, now what will happen is this top layer keeps the planting soil nice and damp and traps the moisture in, and it also keeps your animals from actually ingesting the smaller particle bedding, which is nice, especially if you have dwarf geckos like I do at home. And then there's that. And then what I also like to do is put in some pebbles and stuff just to make it look nice. That also helps weigh down stuff. Make a mess. It's easier. More fun. There we go. And then moss. Moss is big and important when you're keeping tropical species because what happens with moss is it gives lots of surface area for water to evaporate. And that's important because the more evaporated water there is within the cage, the more humidity there is within the cage. So it's important for it to, you don't want the cage to just stay wet. You want it to get wet and then dry out. The process of drying out is what creates the humidity. There's nothing that needs to be wet all the time. There's lots that needs to be humid all the time. And there's a big difference between humid and wet. It's like going to Florida when it's muggy and hot. It's like you walk outside and you can feel the air, but you're not wet. That's humidity. When it's raining, like it is outside right now, that's wet, but it's not humid. So there's a big difference between wet and humid, and that's an important distinction to make when you're keeping animals that you're not sure about. So moss and how much you use of it can make a big difference. Then, so now that you've got the cage all built, if you want to let me see it from there. Now that you've got the cage all built, put it all back together. Now what I like to do for animals, because I like to keep animals that bask, such as the day geckos, gliding lizards, all that kind of stuff. Not only should you use a light just to light the cage, which would be this, that'll provide UVB. You can put your UVB lights in there, use a 2.0, use a 5.0. It doesn't need to be a super duper intense UVB light. But I also, it's supposed to be in front, but I also like to use a light dome or another kind of light to provide a basking spot. It doesn't need to be a super hot basking spot, but having one localized basking area does provide your animals with a range of choices to seek out. I've noticed in my cages animals that typically don't get characterized as needing to bask will bask. My crested geckos will bask. Leopard geckos will bask. You know, all of my day geckos bask, and that's kind of common. That's supposed to happen. Even dart frogs, to a certain extent, will seek out a warmer microclimate within the cage. They may not go up and bask under the light, but they will seek out that warmer corner. As well, at the bottom, it's going to be mostly room temperature, and that corner it's going to be a couple degrees hotter than it will be in the rest of the cage. Creating those kind of microclimates really, really helps animals, especially the sensitive ones, especially the ones that do best in a vivarium. So when you create microclimates and you create multiple zones within a cage, that's when you have the most success. And that's pretty much it. Do you guys have any questions on it?
Do you have to replace the hydro bulb?
Depends. If you clean out the whole cage and you want to redo it, I would just swap it out just for cleanliness. but I've got a cage going that I've had for 2 years now that I haven't swapped them out. I have cleaned out cages though that have been going for a year or so, and you do notice some of the hydro balls kind of falling apart, but it's something that takes years rather than months like it would with other kinds of bedding. Do you have any other questions? Cool.